encounter.
It feels very
Hello and welcome to the Unwanted Opinion podcast, the show in which me and my friends give our unwanted opinions on all things film. My name is Lewis and I'm joined today with Kyle.
Hello.
Hello, how you doing?
Good, yeah, not too bad. Down to just us two, sadly.
I know.
The country of Spain hates Gonzalo. So that's why.
We're not even going to elaborate on that. It's just the country hates them.
It's just that. Sorry, yeah, no, it's just that. I wouldn't say anything else.
No,
but,
it's because sorry. Just cut you off there. On today's episode, we are talking about Project Hail Mary, the big, hotly anticipated Ryan Gosling space film directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, which we'll get onto in a few minutes. And the reason Gonzalo is not on the show is because, for some reason, it will be up a week later for him. So, whereas the rest of the world got it this week, so he's not available for this show because we're going to spoil the film for him. But first, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day. A trailer for that dropped sometime last week. So, and it's become, out of nowhere, like the most popular, most watched trailer like of all time. So Kel, what do you make of that? What do you make of that record? That's pretty mad.
It's pretty mad, and to be fair, their release was very interesting. I don't know if you saw, but for like a day before, they were doing like a 2-second clip every hour for like, and it was very. Remember when they did that with like the Avengers Doomsday announcement, and they did those chairs, like
it did a live stream or something.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. But then the trailer came out, and I was like, right, okay, we'll sit and we'll watch. And it boggles my mind, man. It's been what 2021, so
it's been
5 years of an IP as big as Spider-Man. Like, this is what I'm saying. Like, this is when I was like, I saw a trailer for in The Mandalorian Grogu, and I'm like, mate, I can't believe it's been again since 2019, the last Star Wars movie. I'm like, why are you guys taking so long to do these things? And so the trailer for Brand New Day starts, and they gave a synopsis that says it's been 4 years since we last saw Peter Parker. So we're just missing his college arc. He's just going to be completely out of college.
Yep.
And we kind of get that when we kind of see him. He's a bit depressed. He's watching MJ and Ned TikTok or live streaming that the fact they've graduated MIT. So we now know that's how they're going to do it. It's because they obviously want to keep Zendaya and Jacob in it. So they're like, right, we need to send it past that point. And yeah, I mean, when I watched it in the IMAX, like I said, I got to see that trailer in the IMAX. I was very much like, that's Glasgow. Glasgow.
So the whole opening is going to be Glasgow,
Yeah, I was like, that's Glasgow. And yeah, I am very intrigued with the story, to be honest. I kind of got excited. I heard little bits that they were going to do certain aspects of some of the story arcs. So like the Brand New Day story arc where he kind of goes into Cocoon, and they're getting little hints of his mutant arc if you've seen the animated Spider-Man series. And that's honestly what kind of really intrigued me as well, because I loved that kind of arc in the animation, especially when Blade shows up, and it's great, and I was like, wow, okay, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see who Sadie Sink plays, because
she's kept under wraps.
I am more and more convinced she actually might be playing a version of Jean Grey.
Really? That's going to be the first... Well, I suppose Wolverine's kind of shown up already, but like the first X-Man that's going to be in this thing?
It's the... Just with the kind of costume design and the kind of powers we're getting, and I'm like, right, if the whole thing is maybe about these guys hunting mutants, and we're getting his style... We're possibly getting his Man-Spider arc, who knows?
No, I don't know what that means. Like,
have you never seen the animated series?
No, I know. I've seen episodes of it, and I've seen like the whole Venom saga, but I've not watched like.
So there's a great arc where he actually teams up the X-Men, because he essentially finds out he is a mutant as well because of the spider bite, and there's a whole thing where he essentially turns into like a spider, a man spider, and spider. It's great in the animated, and he's like working with the X-Men to try and like. Because the whole thing's like he wants to cure it, and they're like, no, you have to let your mutation Thor, all that kind of jazz. So yeah, I was really intrigued to see it. Bruce Banner's there. I was like, yeah, we'll get a Spider-Man film one day without any other MCU
without anybody else.
showing up.
Punisher as well.
No, to be fair, the Punisher, I kind of like because there has been more
There's
crossovers with,
and it's very New York,
Yeah,
team
like
up.
Punisher makes sense. It's when you have like Hulk, I'm like, yeah, he's gonna be there, sure. But
is he gonna Hulk out really at all in it?
I believe there's gonna be a Hulk out scene. I think the rumors have suggested it's gonna be like he's gonna eventually Grey Hulk it, and it's gonna be some sort of weird thing.
So, one last question, I guess, for this whole thing is, we see him fight, a bunch of variety of Spider-Man villains. The Hand, Spider-Man, the Scorpion. Who else is there? I can't remember who else was in the trailer.
There's like BRT or CRT villains like Translot and Boomerang.
Yeah, that was it. Obviously they'll be in it for like a montage thing, whatever. But what is the main villain of this film?
Well, that's a good question because I think it's Sadie Sink. I think she's the main villain. Mm-hmm. I wonder with the Hand being there as well if we'll get. I know people with the rumors are like Mr. Negative, and I was like, I think it's too soon from the game to do a Mr. Negative. I don't know, I might be wrong. I'm convinced it will be Sadie Sink in some form, and I also think Peter will be a bit of a villainy in that. I don't know. I think because if he does turn into the creature, he might have himself be a bit of a.
Okay.
It's hard if you haven't seen it, but I'm gonna ask you, and this is I don't know. I'm wondering do you think in either this film or this trilogy we will be introduced to Miles, and they will eventually pass it off to Miles? Do you think that's gonna happen?
I think so. I think. Well, it's just like, how long is Tom Holland going to do this for? He's been Spider-Man for like 10 years.
10 years plus now. I mean, maybe 2014,
well, Civil War,
2015.
Wasn't it?
So it's definitely plus 10 years. But
it's the longest running Spider-Man.
I'm very intrigued for it because it's obviously not James Watts or Josh Watts or whatever his name was that directed the Homecoming series. And I did see the visuals. I was like, this is more interesting. Like,
it looks more interesting.
For all the faults that Shang-Chi had, the fighting was not one of them, especially when it was the hand-to-hand on the kind of street-level fighting. So I'm really intrigued for that. I do love how people are like, when I think it's the start of the trailer, it has that, they go for the face cam of him in the mask. I was like, that's pretty sick. And people are like, isn't that meant to be skin tight? And I'm like, you're watching a comic book movie. Shut up. Like, really, really ziff it. So, yeah. I don't know about you, Lewis. I'm intrigued more than anything.
It comes out in what, end of July? Am I getting that right?
July it will be.
Yeah, it's quite a late summer release actually, especially it's like 2 weeks after the Odyssey's out. So,
well, I don't know, but it's gonna be a packed year for Zendaya. I'll tell you that. She'll be raking.
Well, she's Dune, this and the Odyssey,
as well as the drama, which was actually what I was thinking of in my head.
Oh, but also Tom Holland's in the Odyssey as well, so he's going to be like dominating July and August.
He is. He will be in. Yeah, I forgot about that actually.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Interesting. Right.
What a life.
Spider-Man's done.
Okay, we're gonna get on to this. So, yes, let's talk about Project Hail Mary. So, adapted from the famous Andy Weir novel released in 2021. He, of course, wrote The Martian as well, which was adapted into the film in 2015. Probably that's how his whole name really blew up after the release of that film. So he's sort of a science fiction, American sci-fi novelist. And so this is adapted from a novel of the same name, starring Ryan Gosling as Dr. Ryland Grace, as well as Sandra Hüller as Eva Stratt. And, well, those are kind of the only two main characters. We'll get into the other one in a minute. But yes, so as I said before, it's directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, who, were, as it says in the trailer, the visionaries behind the animated Spider-Man, the Into the Spider-Verse series.
But they don't direct them. I think that's something that a lot of people think.
Yes.
But the most recent films they directed, that was maybe the Jump Street films. They did direct the Lego movie.
They did direct the Lego movie, that's correct. And I think, were they not involved in Game Night, if I'm correct in saying that? Have you seen Game Night?
I have the Rachel McAdams and
yes.
No,
I think they were actually the last thing they directed was a TV series called The Last Man on Earth. But yeah, you're right. Before that was 22 Jump Street, which is 2014. Which is the last film they actually directed. That's mental. Anyway,
22. Yeah, sorry, I know
yeah.
it's bizarre because we think of them as the guys that do Spider-Verse.
And also, I mean, there was the whole Solo case where they directed a bunch of the Han Solo film.
They got fired from Solo.
They got fired from that. We don't know how much of that got cut. We don't know how much of that is left in the project. Ron Howard came on to finish that project. We don't actually know like how much is sort of left that they finished. That everyone was interested in. Will there ever be a Lord Miller cut? Not if Disney has anything to say about it. Yes, anyway.
Chance.
So yeah. The film sort of opens up with Rylan Grace, who is woken up out of a coma, and he wakes up on the spaceship, the Project Hail Mary, to discover that his crew have passed away on this journey. He doesn't really remember anything, doesn't know why he's there, what exactly he's there to do, but slowly the memories come back to him, and then through that we also get flashbacks back to Earth into sort of understanding how he got involved with the space mission. And the basic premise of the space mission is our sun is dying due to a sort of parasitical force called astrophage, and he has been sent there to sort of solve and figure a way to sort of stop this and save our planet. And while he's out there, he meets someone who might be able to help him, right? And that's all I'm going to say about that, because I went in blind. So, I obviously went in blind ages ago and then started reading the book and got the book. Went to see it, yeah. So, but Kel, this is sort of your thing. I mean, you love this book.
I read the book maybe 2022, and I've maybe read it 3 or 4 times since. So I'm a big big fan of this book. I'm not gonna review the book here, but I'm just gonna say I really fell in love with the book. I really enjoyed Andy Weir's writing and how he did this sort of comical book, because the book is funny.
It's funny. It is funny. It has its moments,
as well as being quite hard sci-fi, which I think we can agree that the movie does a good job of not going as hard as the book does.
Yes, I agree.
Which I'm quite glad, because as somebody who really enjoyed the hard sci-fi bits, and I always loved actually the kind of getting into the problem solving and all that stuff. I do appreciate that adapting that for general audiences would be a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you know, man, see when this got announced, and I was like, Ryan Gosling. I was like, this could be good, because Ryan Gosling obviously he was a big hand behind making this film happen.
Yes, yeah, I've heard that too.
You know, he was an executive producer from the get-go. He was really kind of pushing to get this done, and the first trailer came out, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be good. This is see, when you see a trailer and you can literally tell you each page on the book it's from.
Oh yeah.
You're like, oh yes, we're in for a good ride. And man, it did not disappoint me, I have to say. I was very, very pleased with what they did. Very pleased with the minor additions they did to the book, because for 98% it's a very faithful adaptation, and
very
faithful,
very faithful.
2 scenes they add in that are new from the book, and which was great, because one, it gave me something to go, oh, whoa, I didn't know this was coming.
That one's quite spoilery, so we'll get to that problem.
One's very spoilery, which we won't touch on now. And it was
a question I asked you before seeing the day of seeing the film. I was like, do you think they're going to show this? And you're like, nah. And then they did.
It's so funny, because me and my dad, read it when it first came out, because he really liked The Martian, so he's obviously he's as obsessed with it as I am.
Old Andy Weir fan, yeah.
And we came out and we were like, I understand why they didn't do it in the books. It's very hard to describe that.
Oh yeah, you couldn't.
Because I don't think I could describe to you what I saw. And I saw it twice over the weekend.
Yeah.
And I still don't think I could actually describe to you what I saw, which I think's why. Maybe Andy Weir was really in the project as well, and he might have said, "Listen, I couldn't do this. Maybe you can. So go for it." So man. I mean, I was pretty happy, and as somebody who's literally gone through that book multiple times, I was like, "This is This is pretty good. We'll go into discussions. There's a couple of bits in the book I wish made it in for other aspects, but I can completely understand why they didn't. But we can go into that in more of a spoilery section. I'll pass over to you.
Okay. So I finished the book 3 hours before seeing the film.
Like I was being like, I've done.
Yeah. Because I started the book and I was blasting through it and I was having a great time, and then life and work got in the way where I had so much to do, and then I was like, oh my god, I have like less than a week to finish this book and I have like 300 pages left, so I had to really, really just like sort of just blast through it, use the help of the audiobook as well. So yeah, I got through it. And I like the book. I agree with you. I think sometimes Andy Weir goes into like too much detail, where I think it slows down the pace a little bit. That was just my complaint from the book. I mean, everyone else loves it. Anyway, on the back of my book it says Barack Obama Book of the Year. You know,
the Barack Obama Book of the Year edition. That's incredible.
Yeah, that was crazy. So Barack Obama loves it. And yeah, so I go to film, and I said to you, Kel, after I was like, I think this is one of the rare cases where I thought the film was better than the book, because it captures all the essential elements of the book, and I feel like it improves it in some character areas where I think the book didn't affect me as much as this film did.
See, I agree with you, because it's harder for me because I've read the book so many times and it's hard for me to distinguish it. But because you said that, and I was like, "This guy's crazy," and I was like,
it was the Key and Peele sketch. Whenever you said
I did say that.
I may be in the minority, but I think
okay, it's okay because I said it though. Yeah, I completely agree with you, especially on the way they paced the story. They knew what bits to get through quickly, and then they knew what to slow down. They knew what was important. Sorry, continue.
No, and there's definitely the whole Strat character. I think, I mean, look, I love Sandra Hüller, so maybe I'm biased in that front, but I just liked the depiction of that character more in this film, because in the book that character is way colder, way more direct. And yes, she still has those elements in this film. She is direct, and like she needs to get this job done. She needs to get this project up into space. But there's these little touches she adds to it, and I'm sure the directors probably told Sandra Hüller to do as well, where you can clearly see she really likes Ryland, and that there's like these smirks and these like moments where they don't really even, there's like a pause in the conversation, she just looks at him, and I don't think it's like meant to be perceived as like romantic or anything. I think it's just like she knows like this is the guy, and and she just really respects him and really likes him, and I just thought that was a really nice human touch. And yes, that's sort of expressed in the book, but it's once again, it's sort of easier to depict a human, like just get an actor to depict that without saying anything than in a book, you know.
I would say Strout's character in the book, she's meant to be a lot more, you're meant to understand, this person has complete control. You know, that's maybe not demonstrated as much in the movie.
No, it's not needed to, I guess.
But in the book, they really like to make it clear that she could say anything and that will happen.
That will happen,
But yeah, I do agree. I really liked the emotional kind of part. I don't even know it. Not even to the sense it was like a son-mother. It was something different. Whereas in the book, you just kind of got the idea that Ryland ended up being her second in command just because he was there. Yeah. But in this one, they definitely was more of a, there's something I like in you.
There's more of a friendship as well.
There is more of a friendship, and there's scenes where he's like, "Go on, crack a smile."
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And I mean, I could get onto Ryan Gosling, man, because I think it's I was discussing this with my mate when I came out of the cinema. Sorry, I feel like I'm taking away from what you're saying, but it's just because we were talking about characters.
Yeah.
Ryan Gosling does an incredible job of essentially playing two different versions of the same character, where you've got one post waking up, and then one waking after he woke up, where to try and avoid spoilers as much, the one waking up is a lot more confident in himself because of he's like, I'm in this situation, I'm here, I must be good enough to be here, which is something that he does very much audibly say to himself in the book, where he's like, well, they sent me here, I'm clearly well enough to do it. And then you see a Ryland pre-waking up where he's clearly a lot more sort of nervous where he has conversations with Yao, who is such and such for industry. I knew, I was like, that's, I can't remember his name, sadly.
I was great to see him. Oh my god, I forgot his name.
But he plays, so
industry.
Yao, who's the pilot and the captain, who's meant to be the commander of Project Hail Mary. And he has a conversation, and Ryan was like, you guys are good. I couldn't do it. And he's like, hey, you just gotta find somebody to do it for, man. That's what bravery is. It's not a gene. So I thought Ryan Gosling did a great job.
No, it's great, and I think a big testament to his performance as well is that this film was 2.5 hours long, and it does not feel 2.5 hours long. Like I was like, oh wow, I feel like I kind of just got here, and then it was over, and I was like, it went by so fast for me, and because so much of it, I mean, for large portions of the film, it's Gosling having to carry the whole thing and do all the work. I mean, look, and he's obviously been a fantastic actor. He's been around for like forever, since he was a teenager. He's been acting, so I mean, like, he's obviously a veteran of the game now. But yeah, he's got so much charisma. He's got so much charm. You buy into everything in his performance. I think he's fantastic in it. And obviously, we get to. I guess we just have to. I mean, it's in the trailers. I mean, we can talk about him now.
As he described. It's like saying E.T. is about a kid and his parents going through a divorce. If you try and explain E.T. without the alien, that's what you're getting. You can't.
Yeah.
So you have, as you said, he goes to Tau Ceti to understand why the astrophage isn't dimming that sun's light, and while he's there, he discovers he wasn't the first to get there, and he gets introduced to an Adridian, or as he calls them, an Adridian, because they're from Erdrid something, and he calls him Rocky because he essentially is a rock spider. Yeah,
a big, talking rock. Well, he gets a translator and can talk to him that way. And did you know the whole voice of Rocky and how that came to be?
I heard, So obviously, the one I think the best decision they ever made was making Rocky practical.
Oh. Yeah,
because apparently there was conversations that he was going to be a green floating tennis ball, and they would have to CGI him in, and I'm just like, you can't do that. And Ryan Gosling went into so much detail about how when they decided to make him practical, because also the Hail Mary is a practical ship. I don't know if you've seen it looks scenes.
Great.
It's incredible, great. And they said that when they decided to make him practical, Rocky, it made them kind of go, right, so we actually have to make his little like hamster tunnels in the Hail Mary. Like we actually have to actually do this. So it's not going to be like a CGI where it goes, well, that's not working. We have to physically do it. And and they decided to give him a voice because in the book it's just he kind of learns to understand them after a couple of days, which I think is the most unrealistic part of that translation thing. And in this one, he's
very
like,
quick.
It's very quick in picking it up. And in this version, it's like, right, okay, I've got the translation things working, but I can't be bothered to go and reading it all the time. So let's give you a voice. And there was a puppeteer who was James Orts, who was one of the... There was about 6 of them called the Rocketeers, they called them. But he was like the main one that would be with him. And he was always just the one that would read out the lines. And they were like, he is the voice.
He's the guy. It's like,
because
it just works. And he's the one who Ryan Gosling is responding to emotionally in the scene. So
see the whole Rocky hate mark scene.
That
was all ad-libbed. Like, that wasn't scripted. They were just shooting. Okay. They would apparently like film them for like 40 minutes having conversations over like what the thing, and Ryan Gosling was like saying like, oh, I was just trying to describe one of Grace's like ex relationships, and then James just went Rocky hate Mark, and they just like, this guy is the voice.
Yeah, he's good. He's really good. And like we're saying, that is the film. It's not so much. I mean, yes, they obviously have to save the world, and Rocky has to save his world, and to a degree too. But the whole thing is the relationship between Rocky and Ryland, and I mean, that's the thing that sells it, is that the writing for Rocky's so good, the writing for Ryland is so good, and they both carry it through their charisma. And maybe a lot of credit goes to James as well, because his voice is perfect for Rocky. Like, you completely buy it, and the friendship sparks very quickly, and you're with it for the whole way.
Because you have to, the friendship sparking in a sense that Ryland obviously wakes up with 2 of his crewmates dead. He's alone. He kind of realizes that through his kind of flashback that this is a one-way journey for him. and it's that sort of depression that kicks in, and then we have Rocky show up, and you learn that, you know, they go into a lot more detail in the book about how this is actually technically their species' first ever spaceship, you know, and they've never done space travel before because they don't need to, because their species they never actually looked up and saw the skies because of how the planet was made. And Rocky, 22 of the 23 crew members died because they didn't know what radiation was.
Yeah.
And they didn't mention it. I don't think they mentioned it in the film, but in the book, he had been sitting in that solar system for 46 years.
Yeah, which isn't long, and well, it's not as nowhere near as long because they can live for much longer. But
yeah, but it's still, you know, a time of and when you realize how they sleep and how they usually have people guarding them because they literally just go paralytic almost and they can't move. You realize how happy these two would have been to find each other, even though they are not of the same species. And it's just that's just a brilliant to the friendship that they grew, and it was such a beautiful friendship, and it was so funny as well.
Absolutely. And I will say, obviously, like this is sort of the first big tentpole film of this year, I think. I mean, I can't think of anything else. Maybe Wuthering Heights to a degree. Maybe Hoppers, I guess. But no, this is like the big sort of big blockbuster. I mean, this is a $200 million film. And the good thing is, it looks it, unlike a Moana live action remake. Like, it looks great. And that's the most impressive thing, is we just looked at Phil Lord and Christopher Miller's filmography there. They haven't directed a live action film that we've seen since 2014, and it looks like these guys have been, you know, working every year, like doing stuff, because like it looks great, and like you're saying, the sets and the way it's shot, and it's the cinematographer of Dune, if I'm correct.
It is. Dune, definitely Dune Part 2 and Dune, I think.
Yeah, I think was it Greg Fraser? Yeah,
because my God, is this film just visually beautiful. There's never a shot in it for something that I guess is not. I mean, it's in space, but it's mostly in the spaceship. Yeah, but even so, there's no scenes at any point have I ever gone. Ooh,
Kyle's making a face. Yeah, Kyle's making
I'm making
face
a face. You know, it's like I don't think I ever watched Interstellar and went, "Oh, that doesn't look like a black hole." And you know, see when you actually watch a film, you come out of it and you realize there was no moments that broke my immersion in the film.
No. You know, and that's the thing. And like you get the. And like I say, it's a big tentpole film, but in terms of like action set pieces, there is not that many, really.
No, there's not, because
not
like,
really.
That's not what the story's about. The story's almost a weird. The story's kind of like a mystery, because it's a mystery in the sense of how we're going to save the planet, and then Ryland's in the mystery of how did I get here.
And the mystery of Rocky as well, like
and the mystery of Rocky and where's he from. So that the film is the book and the story is more of a mystery and companionship and a friendship and I mean, like we were talking about earlier, the book's funny. This takes it brilliantly and it adapts the humor. You get lovely kind of banter with kind of Grace and Rocky being just overly excited that he's finally got somebody, and you know, Rocky's the engineer of his ship, so he was never going to figure it out. He wasn't the one really designed to figure out the astrophage problem. He was just the one to get them there. So when he met Ryland, who was the scientist, and they he realized that they could save their planets. So he's almost like an overexcited puppy. And especially when he comes onto the ship and he's running around going, "Oh, this is brilliant. Show me all the human tech." And Ryland's a bit like, "I'm a bit of a loner, by the way, so I need my space." And it's just like... And he's like, "Okay, where's my bedroom?" And he's like, "Wait,
learning to live with each other. Yeah, that's that. It's the whole thing. Yeah, like then he has like, sort of like the messy roommate thing, and he's like, "Oh my God, he doesn't leave me alone." Which is really good. I have to say, my favorite moment of the whole film is the bit where they approach. Is it Tal City, the planet? The place where they
Tal City's the solar system. They call it Adrian.
Yes, they call it Adrian. Yeah. And then he turns the camera, the visor, or something where he turns it into like infrared.
I know exactly. It's when they go to the Petrova spectrum, so they could see the Petrova line, and it goes
the Petrova line. Yeah. I love that sequence. That's right up my street. That was great.
I mean, we both saw it in IMAX as well, and that was
yeah.
And I love how like what the audience is doing, which is having a moment with that scene. It's funny because Ryan Grace is also just letting himself like spin in it, and Rocky's like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm just having a moment, man." And he's like, "This is great." This is like, he's like, "This is visually amazing. I'm just having a wee moment." And I was like, "I'm fully with you there, bro. I'm having a moment too. This is great."
Okay, well, let's give it scores, and then we can go into the spoiler section. Spoilers. Then, so, okay, what are you gonna give it? I know what you're gonna give it, but what are you gonna give it?
It's easy for me. It's hard for me not to give this a 10 out of 10 because I love the book so much. Sometimes when I'm bored, I will listen to the audible book and just listen to the story, which I know is probably an amazing take from you because I know you're.
Oh, I was not a fan.
We'll get into that because this is really the shocking thing about it. But yeah, I have to give it 10 out of 10 because I went in and I was like, this is the best adaptation of that book they could have done for a movie. And there was no point of that film that I was not unhappy. We'll go into spoilers of the tweaks they made that I understand why they did, and I'll only go on my points that I wanted to be in. But yeah, man, I will. This will be a film that I watch every year.
Oh yeah! Wow. Okay, that's high praise.
I love it's the story for me, man. They did it so well, and God, it makes me fall for a rock, man. I would do anything for that rock. What about yourself, Lewis?
Well, I'm giving it a solid 8 out of 10. It could go higher. I do need to. It's one of those things I'd rewatch. Like I'm saying, I think it's an improvement, ever so slightly. The book. However, I'm gonna be probably a bit contradictory here because when we go into spoilers, I think there's some elements from the book that I think perhaps is maybe like where a flaw in the film comes from, and I think it's a little bit towards near the end of the film for me, where I'm like, okay, the book kind of does that better, but that's because that has the advantage of being a book. Anyway, I'll get to specifics.
I know you.
But in terms of the first like big blockbuster of 2026, I think it's a great watch. Like I'm saying, it does not feel like 2.5 hours long. If anyone feels that is a daunting runtime, trust me, when you get in there, sit down 10 minutes in, you're like, you're not even gonna know it's past. Like. Ryan Gosling is so charming and fantastic that Rocky is like going to win the hearts of everyone all over the world, and I love Sandra Hüller. I think she's great. I think she's inspired casting. She was brilliant casting actually in this film too.
I
had some really exciting, tense moments as well.
Yeah, so I remember telling you, Lewis, before you had read the book and this film had just got announced, you were obviously buzzing that Sandra Hüller had got casted, and I remember telling you, I'm like, you don't know this yet. That she is perfect casting, and I was like, you're gonna understand this later down the line, man. I was like, you understand this, but so let's dive into a wee bit more of the spoilers of the story,
let's do
and maybe some bits the comparison to the book and stuff we wish we saw, some things we did get to see that weren't.
So the thing I asked you before going in, I was like, are they gonna show what Earth is like a little bit? And you're like, nah, they're not going to bother or something like that. And then it wasn't much, but they showed you what Earth was like. Do you
know it's hard for me to understand? I was like, they could have been in the Arctic. I actually don't know where that scene is. Like,
yes, I guess.
See if they gave you like a little caption of going saying the Bahamas and they were going through ice. I'd have been like, oh, like it is pretty bad.
But like.
And so because obviously in the end, for anybody who hasn't seen the end, hasn't read the book, if you've not seen the film, you're going to be really confused. If you haven't read the book, at the end of the movie, we get a wee scene where Strout is picking up the Beatles. They weren't legally allowed to call them the Beatles, by the way. They didn't get that permission.
Yeah, that's funny.
Which is why they're called it's a Beatle, and then they just show Paul, Ringo, George.
Yeah, they just show the names.
Yeah.
I was really wondering. I was like, they are such a big thing in the book, and I'm like, why have they not? They never really talk about them. Like it was kind of weird.
Apparently, they didn't have permission, which is why they weren't called the Beatles. It was a Beatle, and there was just 4 of them. And she picks up all the information, and Ryland sends her a wee thing, and you see that she's in some sort of big tanker. Really cold, double layered up and everything, visually aged, and you get it. While in the book, because obviously again spoilers, Ryland goes to Edred, like he goes to pick up. he realizes when the Talmiba is destroying the fuel source, and then he realizes that he breeded them in the Xeon chambers. And obviously that was a big bit that they kind of just brushed over, which is like I can imagine that whole Talmiba farm nitrogen adapting thing in the books, like you're getting near to the end of the book and you're getting a really big science. I can understand that's probably a bit dragging if you're not the most science person. And he goes and saves Rocky, and he goes, but has to go back to his planet. And in the book, you just get confirmation that they were like, oh, we see that the star has brightened up. Like, Sol has returned to full luminosity and stuff like that. So, like, we know it's real. It's fine. And he's like, oh, class. So, that's the case. But, yeah, they show us in the book. And, we also get to see
yeah, and I think like I was saying, where I'm going to contradict myself, they do speed up the Earth stuff a lot in the film just to get to the space thing.
This is what I have my only issue. I know I gave it a 10 out of 10, but my only issue with the film is that there was two aspects from the Earth storyline that I wanted to see. One, which was the Sahara Desert and the nuking of Antarctica.
Oh yes, because the New Zealand guy.
Because I felt that we needed to see more of the sacrifices Earth made.
That's the thing. You don't really get an impression. You don't really get an idea of how bad things get on Earth. Them like nuking the Arctic
to release the CO2 to basically. So essentially, the idea is like we need to try and capture some heat. We're going to nuke Antarctic to essentially accelerate global warming to give us some more heat.
Yeah.
And then the whole thing with Sahara Desert is that they have to get all the energy to get the astrophage farming done. And they basically destroy the Sahara Desert to get this astrophage done. And that's the one thing I really kind of felt we were missing, was that we didn't really see the sacrifices Earth had to do to get the Hail Mary into orbit.
I agree.
And this is when I was talking to my dad. So we were having a discussion about this, because me and my dad, we always say, are they going to do a Little Shop of Horrors? Now, if you don't understand what I'm meaning here, is that in the original musical Little Shop of Horrors, the plants win and the Earth dies, and the Earth gets taken over by the alien plants. However, in the American movie, it ends very happy ever after, and they're on like a thing. So we always say, do you think they're going to Little Shop of Horror this? And they kind of did, in the sense where they're like, we can't show them how depressing Earth is, and then in the end, in the book, due to the pressure on the kind of gravity of Erdred, Ryland's got really bad arthritis. He has to use a walking cane. And it's essentially saying that he won't be able to make it back to Earth because of his health. But in the movie, it's a lot more like, I might hang around here for a bit. I could still go home. I'm going to hang around here for a wee bit. And it's
happy.
Again,
he's happy.
And I was like to my dad, I was like, they did Little Shop of Horrors it, but they did it to a point where it's like, if you want to think he goes back to Earth, he does, and you think if he wants to say he does, but in the book it is like he can't because of the atmosphere and the difference of this planet.
Yeah, and he gets too old. I suppose I love that phrase. The Little Shop of Horror.
That's what I mean, my dad. That's a good idea.
But that's what I mean when I was talking about being contradictory there. Like, yes, you do have to speed up because it's a film. You don't have much time. And the other bit I was going to get to, where I think it's done better in the book, and I'm saying because it's a book, you have more time to do this, is when Rocky and Ryland part ways, and then he has the whole the astrophy. That's the Talmiba.
Talmiba.
Talmiba, that's it, right? And they start eating the astrophage. So like but then he realizes the issue and then solves it. But then he clocks that, oh no, Rocky has so much more astrophage and it's going to be a much bigger issue. He's not going to, like, he doesn't know it's going to go through the Xenonite, and he has to go back. Well, he has to make the decision to go back and save Rocky, but at the cost of him being able to go home. In the film, because you can do the passage of time much more in the book. Like in the book, it's like what is it, 60 plus days it takes him to get back to Rocky. Like it's like 2 months.
I mean, like the passage of time in the book is that it suggested that they were in Tal City for like months.
Yeah. You know, and for him to get back to Rocky, it took like another 60 days from them parting ways and him to like circle back round to go save Rocky. But in the film, he just kind of like he goes, oh no, and then obviously he has the horrible decision of having to go back and
there
save
is a
Rocky. But then it's
countdown.
just like, yeah, I know. I just feel like it was done rather quick, and it's like, oh well, it didn't feel like it was much of a ways out, even though it is obviously.
Yeah,
but
it was.
do you know
He was
what I
counting
mean?
down. He was counting down 56 days or something or another,
Uh-huh.
and I do get it, and there could have been. I feel they needed to be a wee bit more in that video call, that scene with Strout, because obviously that was about the time the scene, not video call, the pre-recording message that he sends on the Beetle to Strout, and he's like, I realize what you mean, and I like, he's like, I did it, you needed to encourage me a bit, but I did it. Yeah, it's like you say, it's hard to argue because a book can. The irony is people see a big book and they go, oh, great, more stuff. People see a long film and they go, oh, God, a long film. Like,
that's true.
It's like,
that's true, yeah.
If you give somebody a book and say, oh, actually, the guy added on 300 more pages, like, oh, brilliant, 300 more pages of content. Oh, yeah, this 2.5 hour film's got an extra hour. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I guess that's because your society kind of dictates that you finish a film in one go and you can take ages to read a book. It's maybe that's maybe the situation, but no, I mean I found that amazing. One of the other scenes that wasn't in the book was the him going into Rocky's ship.
Yes, we don't really.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
So that was a scene where again, like I could understand it not being in the book because they couldn't describe it because Rocky's ship is such a visually unique thing and. Weirdly light, I guess, for what was it meant to be, but
because
I feel that was
black. Yeah,
I feel that was just a bit of kind of fan servicey thing, but
yeah.
I mean, they did the whole another bit. See, I'm giving it issues here because I know I give it 10 out of 10. I feel like a contradiction, but like I said, it's the perfect adaptation.
No, I mean, no,
but I'm more saying what I wish was I'd taken over into the adaptation because. We get very kind of little hinted things about Rocky's atmosphere and stuff. And there's a great bit in the book where you're essentially having the whole Adrian atmosphere ship panicky scene, which was great in the film. And I mean, the visuals of that with the Hail Mary and how they work with the spin drive was great. And when Rocky essentially comes out of his hamster cage to stabilize the Hail Mary and get the centrifuge going in the spin, Rocky doesn't take himself away to his little his little bed.
No.
Rylan wakes up and has to move him, and Rylan has to try and lift him, and then remembers, God, this guy's heavy because of how different the atmosphere and the pressure is and all that. And there's a lot in the book about him trying to save Rocky, and essentially realize Rocky's like, by the way, that could have killed me. What you did. Because the black suit actually is like me healing myself. It's like they're my white blood cells essentially, and it's like, oh, sorry, bud. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, what I said at the start, where I think it knew where to speed through, especially within the kind of discovering what the astrophage does and how the astrophage breeds. Like in the book, that's a good chunk of him figuring the whole Venus carbon dioxide. Losing them, finding them, and redoing the breeder and such. And then they knew where to slow it down, which is when him and Rocky meet each other, and learning how to translate and learning to live. Learning to live with each other. God, man, it was so good, and I just love the practical aspect of the film. But yeah, there was aspects in the book I think I could see, but like I said, I think it's just because the US like to little show of horror things.
Yeah. Well, before we sign off, as I always like to end these sort of big discussions with, is money, because money is the most important thing in the universe, Kyle. Especially when it comes to art. So. Project Hail Mary, with an estimated budget of around $200 million, Amazon Studios really... I don't think I've seen like an Amazon big blockbuster film ever. I cannot think of a big film they've released in cinemas. I can think of like Manchester by the Sea and like things they've released on Prime, but nothing of like this scale.
I mean, if I'm looking at it, Red 1...
Oh, God. Yeah.
Which technically, as of this moment, is their highest grossing. But that's just because Project Mary's only just released, and it will probably.
Yes. So yeah, $200 million budget, but opening weekend worldwide opened to $140 million, just shy of $141 million. Big $80 million opening weekend in the States. So what are we projecting for this, Kel? You know, as business analysts here.
I would hope 600.
I think about $500 million now, Frank. I could see it getting, maybe
I would say we're 400 to 600. I think's the range we're gonna get.
Yeah, I think though what has got this in its favor is nothing's coming out this weekend, and also the big positive word of mouth. This has got huge positive word of mouth. On Cinema Score as well. So Americans are loving it. It's filled with hope. It's kind of, although yes, it deals with some, it's kind of hard sci-fi at times. It's still got that Ryan Gosling charm and comedy that it appeals to lots of people.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could easily see this, getting that 500 million.
I would love it too, man. I did see it's got one of the highest opening weekends for a non-franchise sequel thing. I think second just to Oppenheimer. Sadly, I think that record's going to break when the Odyssey comes out, because I think the Odyssey will take that record back.
I don't know what the buzz is for the Odyssey, man. I mean, we'll probably talk about that closer to the time, but I don't see a lot of people like that excited about it like they were with Oppenheimer. But anyway, so Project Hail Mary though, like 140 million opening weekend, you can't really complain with that when your budget is that high. And I think it's going to have legs. It's definitely going to have legs. And even when the Super Mario Galaxy movie comes out on the 1st of April, it's still just going to only slip into second place. Like, it'll still do well over that Easter period, I think.
When's Michael coming out?
Michael? Oh, Michael Jackson. Well, that's the end of April.
Is that the end of April? All right, okay. Never mind. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't know how close that was.
I think it's got a lot of space. Pardon the pun. So I think it'll actually probably do really well. Don't think about it. Anyway, let's wrap things up there. So, thank you very much, Kyle, for joining me.
You're welcome.
Yes, as obviously, you were the expertise in today's episode, Mr. Mad Project Hail Mary Man.
Thanks.
But on next week's episode, just to keep on with the space theme, I think we're going to talk about our favourite space films next week. So kind of keep in line with the sci-fi stuff.
Project Hail Mary? I'm joking.
If you want to talk about Project Hail Mary again, be my guest. So yeah, we'll kind of carry on with the space theme, then talk about our favourites, maybe some unsung sci-fi classics. But until then, we just give our opinion on that Spider-Man Brand New Day trailer and, of course, Project Hail Mary. But at the end of the day, those were our unwanted opinions. Thank you very much.